recent times, there has been an ongoing debate about the de-dollarization of the global financial system, fueled by concerns that the United States is leveraging the dominance of the US dollar for geopolitical purposes, particularly in the context of the Ukraine conflict with Russia. This debate has prompted various countries to explore alternatives to the US dollar in their trade and reserve holdings, with a growing trend towards the use of non-dollar currencies and local currencies. The Chinese currency, the Yuan, has emerged as a prominent contender in challenging the supremacy of the US dollar in global payments. China has been actively promoting the internationalization of its currency, seeking to expand its usage beyond its borders. While there are other currencies vying to challenge the US dollar, the Yuan stands out as the most high-profile candidate, especially given the backdrop of escalating tensions between the United States and China. However, it is important to recognize the formidable challenges facing any currency or asset attempting to dethrone the US dollar. Even the euro, the second largest global reserve currency, remains significantly overshadowed by the dollar's dominance. Moreover, intriguingly, Beijing does not aspire for the yuan to become the world's primary reserve currency, as indicated by experts on China's economy. There are three distinct reasons why China exhibits caution in pursuing de-dollarization. Firstly, China remains reluctant to fully liberalize its currency and allow unrestricted capital flows in and out of its economy. Over the past decade, the People's Bank of China has been cautiously promoting greater yuan usage while preserving financial stability. This has been accomplished through the implementation of capital controls, which regulate the movement of foreign capital, influencing exchange rates. These controls align with Beijing's pursuit of an independent and sovereign monetary policy. China's economic model relies heavily on state investment, and the existence of these controls ensures that domestic savings remain within the country's borders, directing funds to government-controlled banks and targeted industries. To abandon capital controls would necessitate a fundamental shift in China's growth model. Therefore, while full liberalization of its current account is improbable, China will continue to focus on yuan internationalization within its trading sphere, aiming to challenge the dollar's dominance in specific regions of the world. Secondly, China's economic circumstances differ significantly from those of the United States. The dollar's role as the principal global reserve currency comes at the cost of a current account deficit for the United States. This dynamic is characterized by global demand for US dollars surpassing American demand for imports, with many international transactions conducted in dollars. The drawback to running a current account deficit is that it leaves a country vulnerable to unexpected shifts in global capital flows. Consequently, the US continually grapples with growing deficits to maintain its reserve currency status. China, as the world's second-largest economy, cannot easily emulate this pattern. Political unwillingness and economic constraints, unless subjected to substantial structural reforms, prevent China from maintaining a sustained current account deficit and providing an ample supply of yuan-denominated assets on a global scale. Lastly, Beijing faces a multitude of geopolitical risks, underscoring the need for alternative assets. Challenging the US dollar as the dominant global reserve currency requires addressing the dollar's entrenched dominance. Presently, even the euro plays a more substantial role than the yuan in the international financial system. Even this year, about 43% of all global payments made through SWIFT were made in the US dollar, while 32% were made in the euro. Just 2.3% of the SWIFT transactions were made in yuan. Statistics from SWIFT, a global payments network, indicate that a significant majority of global transactions are conducted in dollars, with the euro also surpassing the yuan. Meanwhile, the US dollar accounted for the lion's share, or 54%, of global foreign exchange reserves in the fourth quarter of 2022, according to data from the International Monetary Fund. The euro accounted for 20% of the reserves, while the yuan made up just 2.5% of this stash. Data from the International Monetary Fund highlights that the US dollar accounts for the largest share of global foreign exchange reserves, while the yuan's presence remains limited. This scarcity of diverse options for reserve assets poses a challenge for China's central bank, which would need to accumulate substantial quantities of yuan-denominated bonds, paralleling the U.S. Federal Reserve's holdings of Treasury securities. Given these complexities and challenges, the probability of the yuan surpassing the US dollar remains low. Given these issues, it's unlikely for the yuan to overtake the US dollar. To fully liberalize its currency and abolish these controls would necessitate a fundamental shift in China's growth model. Instead of pushing for the yuan to become the dominant global reserve currency, China is likely to focus on expanding the influence of the yuan among countries with which it actively trades. The objective might be to challenge the US dollar's dominance in specific regions rather than worldwide.